People go through things and things happen in life that we can't control. And some of them are bad decisions, you know what I mean, and mistakes.
This NBA legend turned predator spent 40 years in prison, and he's just the beginning. Today, we expose 10 basketball stars linked to brutal crimes. From child molesters to Olympic killers, even one who strangled a man with an HDMI cord over a watch. These stories will leave you speechless. First, Tom Payne. Tom Payne was the first black basketball player at the University of Kentucky, which should have been a legendary flex that opened doors for generations. Instead, this man became one of the most disturbing serial offenders in sports history, and that's on God. Picture this, it's 1969, and Tom Payne is making history at Kentucky, standing 7 to 2 inches and absolutely dominating on the court. He was selected to several high school All-American squads and was sought after by all the major college programs in the country. This dude had everything going for him. He was breaking barriers, paving the way, and had the basketball world at his fingertips.
I started following Dan Issel, Mike Pratt, Mike Casey when I seen him in Sports Illustrated, the Super Softs. So I really, even when I was playing at Shawnee, never was a Kentucky big fan until I learned about Dan Issel, Pratt, and Casey.
The pressure of being the first black player at Kentucky was immense, and you can hear it in his own words when he talks about the hostile environment he faced on the road. The racial hostility in the South during away games took a psychological toll on Payne, with Tennessee being particularly brutal. But none of that, and I mean none of that, excuses what came next. After one season at UK, where he absolutely went off, averaging 17 points and just over 10 rebounds per game, Payne was drafted by the Atlanta Hawks in the 1971 NBA Supplemental Hardship Draft. His NBA career was brief, just 29 games where he averaged 4.1 points. But what happened after basketball is where this story becomes absolutely horrifying. In 1972, Payne was convicted of multiple in Georgia, but it gets worse, so much worse. He followed a woman home and attempted to assault her. She escaped and reported his license plate. Another victim identified him as the perpetrator of a sexual assault 1 month earlier. The absolutely sickening part, this wasn't just a one-time thing. In 1983, while on parole, he was convicted again for multiple rapes, establishing him as a serial offender. And if that wasn't enough to make you lose faith in humanity, in 1986, while still on parole, he was convicted of assault in California. Payne served 5 years in Georgia, was then extradited to Kentucky where he faced another rape charge from his college days, resulting in a life sentence. This man spent nearly 40 years behind bars and wasn't released until 2019. Let that sink in. He was in prison for almost 4 decades because he couldn't stop being an absolute predator.
I wish my mother and father were still here. There's a lot of people that have been very supportive of me in Lexington. There's a lot of people that have been very supportive of me. I've been embraced back here. I've been loved on back here. I just can't tell you what it means to my soul. I don't want to get emotional, but it means it just has tremendous value to my soul and healing. I just want to come back and be able to be of value to the state of Kentucky, bring some of my programs back, help the faith-based community here.
Our next player took his talents and turned them into something absolutely monstrous. Fast Eddie Johnson. Moving from one serial predator to another, we now encounter a story that's going to make you physically ill and question how someone with so much talent could become such a monster. This wasn't just any random bench player. Eddie Johnson was a 2-time NBA All-Star with the Atlanta Hawks from 1977 to 1987, averaging 15.1 points per game over 765 games. This man was legitimately talented, had multiple All-Star appearances, and finished second in 6th Man of the Year voting in 1986. Fast Eddie Johnson was known for his explosive scoring ability and his incredible speed on the court, which earned him his nickname. He was the type of player who could single-handedly change the momentum of a game with his offensive outbursts. But unfortunately, that same explosive nature would manifest itself in the most horrific way possible off the court. But here's where this story becomes absolutely nauseating and shows just how far a human being can fall. In August 2006, Johnson entered a home in Florida's Parkside Garden Apartments uninvited, where an 8-year-old girl was babysitting her younger brothers. What happened next is so disgusting that I honestly don't even want to say it, but we need to face the reality of how sick this man was. He ordered her to the bedroom where he raped her, telling her not to tell anyone about what he called a friendly kiss. An 8-year-old child. Let me repeat that. An 8-year-old child. This man violated an innocent little girl who was just trying to babysit her brothers and then had the audacity to call it a friendly kiss. The level of manipulation and evil in that statement is just beyond comprehension. But wait, it gets even more twisted and shows this was a pattern of predatory behavior. The assault on the 8-year-old occurred days after he had also sexually assaulted a 25-year-old woman. This wasn't a moment of madness. This was a pattern of predatory behavior that showed he was targeting multiple victims across different age groups. And here's the part that shows just how far this man had fallen from his days as an NBA star. Johnson had over 100 prior arrests, mostly drug-related, for crimes including burglary, battery, robbery, drug possession, and assault on a police officer. His cocaine addiction had completely destroyed his life, leading to his NBA ban in 1987, but somehow he managed to sink even lower than anyone could have imagined. In October 2008, a jury convicted Johnson of sexual battery of a minor, lewd and lascivious molestation, and trespassing, and he received a mandatory life sentence. He died in prison in 2020 at age 65 from an undisclosed illness, and honestly, good riddance. The world became a safer place when this predator was no longer breathing. The stark contrast between Eddie Johnson's fall from grace and our next player's story shows that sometimes crimes happen in moments of reckless stupidity rather than calculated evil, though the results are equally devastating. Charles E. Smith. This next story is going to hit different because we're talking about someone who literally represented America on the biggest stage possible and threw it all away in one night of incredible stupidity and cowardice. Charles Edward Smith IV was a former Georgetown star and member of the 1988 U.S. Olympic team, playing for both the Boston Celtics and Minnesota Timberwolves. This man had an Olympic medal and was living the absolute dream that millions of kids fantasize about. Smith wasn't just any college player. He was a standout at Georgetown, one of the most prestigious basketball programs in the country. He earned Big East Player of the Year honors in 1989 and helped lead his team to the Elite Eight. Then he got to represent his country in the Olympics, winning a bronze medal in 1988. This was supposed to be a storybook career that continued into NBA success. But on March 22, 1991, Smith's life and the lives of two innocent people changed forever in the most horrific way possible. While driving under the influence, Smith plowed his van into two Boston University students, N.T. Trin and Michelle L. Dartley, killing both of them. But here's what makes this even more disgusting and shows what a coward this man really was. He then fled the scene before returning briefly and leaving again. Imagine being the families of those two young women who had their entire lives ahead of them, only to have them stolen by some coward who couldn't even stick around to face what he had done. These weren't just statistics. They were real people with dreams, families, and futures that were cut short because one selfish individual decided to drive while impaired. A taxi driver had to follow him, which led to his arrest a mile away. This man literally tried to run away from the scene of a double homicide like some common criminal. The legal proceedings were equally infuriating and show how the justice system often fails victims' families. Smith's blood alcohol level was 0.06 comma below Massachusetts' legal limit of 0.10 at the time, but he was also on codeine for a toothache. The combination of alcohol and codeine created an impaired state that led to this tragedy. On March 12, 1992, Smith was convicted of vehicular homicide and sentenced to 4.5 years in prison, serving only 2.5 years before parole. 2.5 years for killing two people. Let that sink in. Two young women died because this man decided to drive while impaired, and he got less time than some people get for selling drugs. The justice system really showed its whole ass with this one, and it's a pattern we'll see repeated throughout this list. While Smith's crime was born out of reckless negligence, our next player's actions were driven by desperation and addiction, leading to violence that could have easily resulted in death. Billy Ray Bates. Let's talk about Billy Ray Bates, who had one of the most fitting and ironic nicknames in NBA history, Black Superman. The irony, of course, is that Superman is supposed to protect people, not terrorize them. Bates played 4 NBA seasons, 1979 to 1983, mainly with the Portland Trail Blazers, averaging 11.7 points per game in 187 appearances, known for his incredible athleticism and scoring bursts. Billy Ray Bates was the kind of player who could absolutely explode on any given night. He had this supernatural ability to take over games with his athleticism and scoring ability, which is how he earned that Black Superman nickname. Fans in Portland absolutely loved him because he brought this incredible energy and excitement to the court that was just infectious. But just like his comic book namesake, this Superman had his own kryptonite, and unfortunately it wasn't some green rock from space. Alcoholism plagued his career and post-retirement life, and this is where the story takes a turn from tragic to absolutely criminal. The transition from NBA player to addict is something we've seen too many times in professional sports, but Bates' story shows just how far someone can fall when addiction takes control of their life. By the late 1990s, Bates was no longer the Superman that Portland fans remembered. He was a desperate man, making increasingly dangerous decisions. On January 17, 1998, after consuming vodka, Bates attempted to rob a Texaco gas station at knife point to fund his cocaine addiction. Think about that for a second. A former professional athlete, someone who had made hundreds of thousands of dollars playing basketball, was now holding up gas stations for drug money. But here's where Black Superman showed that he was more like a supervillain. He didn't just rob the place. He assaulted the attendant by shooting them, then had the audacity to pass out nearby where he was arrested. Imagine being so messed up on drugs and alcohol that you shoot someone during a robbery and then literally fall asleep at the scene. The level of recklessness and disregard for human life is just mind-blowing. Bates was convicted of first and second degree assault and attempted robbery, serving nearly 5 years in New Jersey prison. Upon his release, Bates claimed rehabilitation, stating, "People can change." But honestly, shooting someone during a robbery kind of makes you question whether some people actually deserve that chance. From a career derailed by addiction and violence, we now turn to a player whose youth and success couldn't save him from making one of the most disgusting decisions possible: DeShawn Stevenson. Now we're getting into some territory that's going to make you realize that age doesn't always equal wisdom, and sometimes young money and fame can lead to absolutely disgusting decisions that destroy lives. DeShawn Stevenson had a 13-year NBA career, 2000 to 2013, across 6 teams, including winning a championship with the Dallas Mavericks in 2011. Drafted 23rd overall straight out of high school, he averaged 7.2 points and 2.2 rebounds in 824 games. Stevenson was part of that wave of high school players who jumped straight to the NBA in the late 90s and early 2000s. He was young, talented, and had his whole life ahead of him. He was known for his defense and his ability to hit big shots in crucial moments. The fact that he went on to win an NBA championship shows that he had real talent and was a valuable player. But in 2001, when Stevenson was just 20 years old and should have been focusing on his basketball career and maybe learning how to be a responsible adult, he made a decision that was absolutely inexcusable. Shortly after the NBA slam dunk contest, Stevenson pleaded no contest to statutory rape for having sex with a 14-year-old girl. Let me break this down for the people in the back who might not understand how disgusting this is. A 20-year-old professional athlete who had access to literally any adult woman he wanted decided to prey on a 14-year-old child. There's no universe where this is acceptable, and there's no excuse that makes this okay. The power dynamic here is absolutely sickening. You have a professional athlete, someone who's on TV and in magazines, using his status to manipulate and abuse a child. This wasn't a case of, oh, she looked older, or any of that BS. This was a grown man who knew exactly what he was doing and chose to do it anyway. The charge was reduced from felony to misdemeanor, and he served community service, but no jail time. The fact that he got such a light sentence is honestly disgusting and shows how much privilege professional athletes get in the justice system. He later faced public intoxication charges post-championship because apparently winning a ring doesn't teach you how to act like a decent human being. The pattern of athletes receiving lenient sentences continues with our next case, where a player's nickname couldn't save him from his own predatory behavior. Ruben Patterson. Here's a story about a man whose basketball nickname was way cooler than his actual character, and it shows how someone can be great at one thing while being absolutely horrible at being a human being. Ruben Patterson played 10 NBA seasons, 1998 to 2008, for teams like the Portland Trail Blazers and Los Angeles Clippers, averaging 10.7 points and 4.2 rebounds in 649 games, known for his defensive tenacity against stars like Kobe Bryant. He literally called himself the Kobe Stopper, which was actually kind of fire as a nickname. Patterson was one of those players who really embraced his role as a defensive specialist. He took pride in being able to lock down some of the best scorers in the league, and his confidence in calling himself the Kobe Stopper showed that he wasn't afraid of any challenge on the court. Fans respected his intensity and his willingness to do the dirty work that championship teams need. But in 2001, Patterson showed that while he might have been able to stop Kobe on the court, he couldn't stop himself from making absolutely deplorable decisions off it. Patterson was accused of attempting to rape his family's nanny at his home. Imagine being trusted with someone's children and then attacking the person who's helping take care of your own family. The level of betrayal and sickness is just unreal. Think about this situation from every angle. You have a woman who is working in your home, taking care of your children, probably building relationships with your family, and you decide to assault her. The violation of trust is almost as disgusting as the crime itself. This woman came to work thinking she was safe, thinking she was in a professional environment, and instead she was attacked by the person who was supposed to protect her. Patterson pleaded guilty under an offered plea, meaning he didn't admit admit guilt, but acknowledged the evidence against him was strong enough for a conviction. He claimed it was consensual sex, but admitted to cheating on his wife. The fact that he's trying to spin attempted rape as consensual sex is just disgusting and shows how little accountability he was willing to take. Patterson was sentenced to 15 days in jail, paid a $400,000 civil settlement, and was required to register as a sex offender. The NBA suspended him for multiple games, but honestly, the fact that he only got 15 days for attempted rape is absolutely wild. His wife even testified in support, denying the rape allegation, which just shows how complicated and messy these situations can get when families are involved. Moving from attempted rape to actual manslaughter, our next case involves a former All-Star whose reckless actions led to a tragic and completely avoidable death. Jason Williams. This next story is honestly one of the most tragic and avoidable on this entire list, and it shows how quickly a moment of stupidity can destroy multiple lives forever. Jason Williams played 9 NBA seasons, 1990 to 1999, mostly with the New Jersey Nets, earning All-Star honors in 1998 and leading the league in offensive rebounds. He averaged 7.3 points and 7.5 rebounds in 475 games before a leg injury ended his career. Williams was known as this larger-than-life personality who brought incredible energy to the court and to his community. He was the type of player who might not have been the most skilled, but he made up for it with pure effort and intensity. After his playing career ended due to injury, he seemed to be transitioning well into retirement, doing charity work and staying involved in the community. But on February 14, 2002, Valentine's Day of all days, Williams made a decision that would destroy multiple lives forever. Williams fatally shot his limo driver, Costas Gus Christofi, with a shotgun at his New Jersey estate during a tour with charity teammates. This man was literally showing his house to charity friends when he decided to play around with a loaded shotgun. The tragedy of this situation is that it was completely preventable. Williams was showing off his gun collection to his friends, and in a moment of incredible stupidity and recklessness, he was handling a loaded shotgun that went off and killed an innocent man who was just doing his job. Costas Christofi was a hard-working limo driver who was just there to provide transportation, and he lost his life because someone couldn't handle firearms responsibly. But here's what makes this story even more disgusting and shows what kind of person Williams really was. Williams tried to cover it up by staging it as a suicide. Instead of immediately calling for help or taking responsibility, this coward tried to make it look like his victim killed himself. The level of selfishness and cowardice is just unbelievable. Think about what that means. Instead of honoring the life of the man he had just killed, Williams's first instinct was to protect himself by desecrating the victim's memory and trying to make his family believe he had committed suicide. That's not just criminal, that's evil. Williams was acquitted of major charges in 2004, but convicted on cover-up counts. In 2010, he pleaded guilty to aggravated assault, receiving 5 years in prison. He served 18 months for the shooting, plus 8 more for a separate DWI, and was released in 2012 after 27 months total. 27 months for killing a man and trying to cover it up. The privilege is absolutely staggering, and it shows once again how the justice system treats athletes differently than regular people. From accidental manslaughter to premeditated murder, our next case involves a player whose gang affiliations led to the death of an innocent mother, Javaris Kittington. Now we're getting into a story that shows how quickly a promising career can turn into an absolute nightmare, and how gang culture can completely destroy someone's life and the lives of innocent people. Javaris Kittington played 4 NBA seasons, 2007 to 2011, for the Lakers, Grizzlies, and Wizards, averaging 5.3 points in 113 games. He was drafted 19th overall in 2007 and was infamously involved in a gun confrontation with Gilbert Arenas in 2009, leading to suspension. The gun incident with Gilbert Arenas should have been a wake-up call for Kittington. Here was a young player who had already shown that he was willing to bring firearms into NBA locker rooms, and instead of getting the help and intervention he needed, he was allowed to continue down a path that would lead to tragedy. But on August 19, 2011, Kittington's life took the darkest possible turn when he made a decision that would destroy an innocent family forever. Kittington murdered 22-year-old mother Jillian Jones in Atlanta, shooting her in the leg while targeting a suspected robber, and she died during surgery. This wasn't even about Jones. She was just an innocent mother who happened to be in the wrong place when this man decided to take justice into his own hands. Jillian Jones was a 22-year-old mother of 4 children who was just walking down the street when she became the victim of Kittington's vigilante justice. She had nothing to do with whatever beef he had with someone else, but she paid the ultimate price because this man decided that he was above the law. Affiliated with the Crips gang, Kittington was arrested at an airport while trying to flee. The fact that an NBA player was affiliated with the Crips and committing drive-by shootings is just mind-blowing. You have millions of dollars and every opportunity in the world, and you choose gang life? You choose to throw away everything you've worked for to play gangster in the streets.
People go through things and things happen in life that we can't control, and some of them are bad decisions, you know what I mean, and mistakes. but it's all about how you get back up from that. When it's all said and done with me, I want people to say, man, that man, he made his mistakes, and they were some serious mistakes, but he got back up.
Kittington was indicted on multiple counts, including murder, and in 2015, he pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter and aggravated assault, sentenced to 23 years, reduced to 10, and was released in 2023. The fact that he got out after only serving about 10 years for murdering an innocent mother is honestly sickening and shows how broken our justice system really is. From a case involving gang violence and murder, we now turn to a story of drunk driving and fatal negligence that shows how repeated bad decisions can lead to tragedy. Dantuki Bllelock. Let's talk about a defensive specialist who couldn't defend himself from making the worst possible decisions. Dantuki Bllelock had a 13-year NBA career, 1989 to 2002, was an all-star in 1994 with the Atlanta Hawks, averaging 13.5 points, 6.7 assists, and 2.0 steals in 889 games, known for his incredible defense with 6 all-defensive team selections. But in May 2013, Bllelock made a decision that showed just how little he valued human life. Despite having a suspended license for prior DUI and medical orders, not to drive due to seizures from alcohol withdrawal, Bllelock caused a fatal crash near Atlanta, blacking out and killing Monica Murphy. Let me break this down. This man knew he wasn't supposed to be driving. He had a suspended license. Doctors told him not to drive because of seizures, and he decided to get behind the wheel anyway, and an innocent woman died because of his selfishness. Bllelock was convicted of vehicular manslaughter in 2014 and sentenced to 15 years in prison, with 3 years to serve, followed by probation. 3 years for killing someone when you knew you shouldn't have been driving. The justice system continues to show how little it values human life when athletes are involved. As we near the end of our list, we encounter what might be the most disturbing case yet, a recent murder that involved torture and showed a level of premeditation that is absolutely chilling. Comanche. Finally, we're ending with the most recent case, and honestly, it might be the most disturbing one yet because it shows that even in 2023, with all the awareness about domestic violence and the consequences of criminal behavior, some people are still capable of absolutely monstrous acts. Comanche had a minor professional career, playing one NBA game for the Portland Trail Blazers in 2023 with no stats, primarily playing in the G League with the Stockton Kings after college at Arizona. He was released post-arrest. While Comanche might not have been a star player, the fact that he was affiliated with an NBA organization and had the platform and opportunities that come with professional basketball makes his crimes even more disgusting. This was someone who had every chance to make something positive of his life, but instead chose to become a killer. On December 6, 2023, Comanche confessed to murdering 23-year-old Morena Rogers in Las Vegas with his ex-girlfriend Sakari Harnden. The details of this murder are absolutely sickening and show the level of premeditation and cruelty involved that makes this case stand out even among this list of horrible crimes. They lured Rogers under a sex pretext amid a Rolex dispute, and Comanche choked her with an HDMI cord for 10 seconds while Harnden finished the act. They then dumped her body in a ditch. This wasn't a crime of passion or a moment of poor judgment. This was a calculated, premeditated murder involving torture and disposal of a human being like she was garbage. The fact that they lured her there under false pretenses shows that they planned this entire thing out, and the method of killing, choking her with an HDMI cord, shows a level of cruelty and brutality that is just beyond comprehension. Morena Rogers was just 23 years old with her whole life ahead of her. She thought she was meeting someone for what she believed was a consensual encounter, but instead, she walked into a trap set by two monsters who decided that their dispute over a watch was worth taking a human life. The fact that they dumped her body in a ditch like she was trash shows the complete lack of humanity and empathy that these two individuals possessed. Even after committing this horrific murder, they couldn't even give her the dignity of a proper burial or allow her family the closure of knowing where she was. As of late 2023, both Comanche and Harnden faced felony counts for open murder and conspiracy with ongoing proceedings. The fact that this happened so recently shows that the problems we've been discussing throughout this video, the sense of entitlement, the lack of accountability, the belief that fame and athletic ability put you above the law are still very much present in modern sports culture. And there you have it. Basketball Fam 10 NBA players who proved that having skills on the court doesn't mean you have any humanity off it. Thanks for joining us today. Click on the screen to check out other content.